The story of Elijah and the prophets of Baal is one that people love to hear because of its dramatic intensity, the clash of faiths, and the ultimate display of God's power. This account is found in 1 Kings 18 and takes place during a time of great spiritual conflict in Israel. King Ahab and his wife Jezebel had led the people of Israel into worshiping Baal, a pagan god, while forsaking the worship of the true God, Yahweh. Elijah, a prophet of God, had been in hiding for some time as Jezebel had been actively persecuting and killing the prophets of the Lord. After 3 years of drought that Elijah had foretold as a punishment for Israel's idolatry, God instructed him to confront Ahab and the false prophets. Elijah appeared before King Ahab, who blamed Elijah for the drought. But Elijah boldly declared that the drought was not his doing, but the result of the king's decision to abandon the Lord and lead the people into idolatry. Elijah then proposed a challenge to settle once and for all who the true God was, Yahweh or Baal. He called for a public contest on Mount Carmel between himself, the lone prophet of Yahweh, and 450 prophets of Baal. Elijah told Ahab to summon all of Israel to witness this showdown. The stage was set. 2 bulls would be offered as sacrifices, one for Baal and one for the Lord, but no fire would be put to the offerings. The prophets of Baal would call upon their God, and Elijah would call upon Yahweh. The God who answered by fire would be the true God. The prophets of Baal went first. They prepared their bull and placed it on the altar. From morning until noon they called out, "O Baal, answer us!" But there was no response. They danced around the altar, shouting and pleading for Baal to show his power. But there was only silence. As the hours passed, Elijah began to mock them. "Shout louder," he said. "Surely he is a god. Perhaps he is deep in thought, or busy, or traveling. Maybe he is sleeping and must be awakened." The prophets of Baal became more desperate. They shouted louder and even slashed themselves with swords and spears, as was their custom, until their blood flowed. But still there was no voice, no answer, and no fire. Then it was Elijah's turn. He repaired the altar of the Lord, which had been torn down. He took 12 stones, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel, and built the altar in the name of the Lord. He dug a trench around the altar and arranged the wood. He cut the bull into pieces and laid it on the wood. Then, to make things even more dramatic, he ordered that 4 large jars of water be poured over the offering and the wood, soaking everything. He had them do it 3 times until the water filled the trench around the altar. At the time of the evening sacrifice, Elijah stepped forward and prayed, "Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant and have done all these things at your command. Answer me, Lord, answer me, so these people will know that you, Lord, are God, and that you are turning their hearts back again." Immediately the fire of the Lord fell from heaven. It consumed not only the sacrifice, but also the wood, the stones, the soil, and even the water in the trench. The people of Israel, witnessing this incredible display of power, fell on their faces and cried out, "The Lord, He is God! The Lord, He is God." Elijah then commanded the people to seize the prophets of Baal, and they were all executed at the Kishon Valley. After this, Elijah prayed for the drought to end, and soon after, heavy rain fell, breaking the 3-year drought and signaling the restoration of God's favor. This story is beloved for many reasons. It's a clear demonstration of the supremacy of the God of Israel over false gods, a dramatic confrontation between good and evil, and a reminder of the power of faith and prayer. Elijah stood alone against overwhelming odds, yet he never wavered in his belief that God would show up and prove himself. The story also highlights how easily people can be led astray when they follow false teachings, but it emphasizes that God is always ready to reveal himself when his people turn back to him. The lesson of Elijah and the prophets of Baal resonates with many because it's a story of boldness, trust, and the triumph of truth over deception. It reminds us that even when we feel outnumbered or overwhelmed, God is with us, and his power can work wonders in impossible situations.